and I'm going to show a video from the founder, one of the founders of Netflix, and he's talking about, so I have to share the screen. Hold on 1 minute. Bear with me while I tackle kind of the technology parts of these things. I don't know if you can see, can everybody see my entire laptop? I'm assuming you can. Yes. Please, somebody let me know if there is a problem, because for some reason I cannot see all of you. Okay, I can see a few people. Okay, so here we go. So this is Mark Randolph, one of the co-founders of Netflix. Let's see if I can get the thing to play, because apparently this thing will not move. Okay. Let me know if you can hear it. It should start now.
Nobody knows anything. True in Hollywood, and I believe true almost any place people are trying new ideas. I mentioned before that Netflix is just one of 7 startups of mine. But if you would ask...
Hold on. Let me pause for a second. Can everybody hear it very well or not?
Yes, yeah, it's audible.
It's audible. It's clear?
Yes.
Okay. So let me go back to the beginning a little bit, at least to the starting where Mark shows up on the thing. Okay, here we go.
Nobody knows anything. True in Hollywood, and I believe true almost any place people are trying new ideas. I mentioned before that Netflix is just one of 7 startups of mine. But if you had asked me on day 1 for each of these, which was going to be the big hit, which was going to be the complete failure, I promise that I could never have told you, nor could anybody else, because genuinely, no one knows anything. So if no one knows anything, if people have no idea before an idea is tried, whether it's a good idea or a bad idea, there's only one thing you have to do, which is you have to go back, you have to take that risk, you have to do something. You've got to build something, you've got to make something, you got to test something, you got to sell something, you have to try something, because you learn more in 1 hour of doing it than in 3 months of thinking about it.
All right. Okay. So that's the first one. Let me play the second one, which is, you might surprise. So when I when I make my students do the ask exercises, my students always say, Steve Jobs would never have done that. And then I said, oh, maybe Steve Jobs would never have done that. Come on, Steve Jobs. And then I had a student who basically sent me this video. Let's see, can I play this whole thing? Hopefully, yeah. Okay. So this is Steve Jobs.
No, I've actually always found something to be very true, which is most people don't get those experiences because they never ask. I've never found anybody that didn't want to help me if I asked them for help. I always call them up. I called up, this will date me, but I called up Bill Hewlett when I was 12 years old. And he lived in Palo Alto. His number was still in the phone book. And he answered the phone himself. He said, yes? He said, hi, I'm Steve Jobs. I'm 12 years old. I'm a student in high school, and I want to build a frequency counter. And I was wondering if you had any spare parts I could have. And he laughed, and he gave me the spare parts to build this frequency counter, and he gave me a job that summer in Hewlett-Packard, working on the assembly line, putting nuts and bolts together on frequency counters. He got me a job in the place that built them. And I was in heaven. And I've never found anyone who said no or hung up the phone when I called. I just asked. And when people ask me, I try to be as responsive, to pay that debt of gratitude back. Most people never pick up the phone and call. Most people never ask. And that's what separates sometimes the people that do things from the people that just dream about them. You gotta act. And you've got to be willing to fail. You've got to be willing to crash and burn, with people on the phone, with starting a company, with whatever. If you're afraid of failing, you won't get very far.
All right. And I'll show you one more, the last one, which is one of my favorites. This is Jackie Novogratz, who built Acumen Fund. Again, very happy because she is a UVA alumna, and she's talking about funding very poor, illiterate women in Rwanda, and how how wrong they were in their prediction. It illustrates a lot of the effectuation principles, but it mostly gives you that surprise of the pilot and the plane, right? How entire futures come from just people doing things. So I hope you can hear that. This is a 3-minute clip, so let me play that for you.
Kigali, Rwanda, 1986. I'm a 25-year-old former banker standing in a field of sunflowers on a bright, sunshiny day. And standing next to me is a bespectacled, apple-cheeked nun named Felicula. We're in that sunflower seed to dream of creating the country's first microfinance bank. And we're there to visit with oil pressing businesses, examples of the tiny kinds of ventures that our bank will fund. We'll call our enterprise Dutarembere. It means to go forward with enthusiasm, and all I see is upside. 2016, Kigali, Rwanda. Now I'm the 55-year-old CEO of a global organization named Acumen. It's night. The sky is midnight blue, and I'm standing speaking to President Kagame and his ministers, telling them about the launch we intend to do of a $70 million off-grid solar fund to bring clean, affordable electricity to 10 million low-income people across East Africa. Now I understand not just the upside, but the downside risks of what change are about, and yet still I'm confident that we'll pull this one off. Right before I get on stage to make my speech, a young woman in a Navy suit walks up to me and says, "Miss Novogratz, I think you knew my auntie." I said, "Really? What was her name?" Because so many of my friends had been killed in the genocide. And she said her name was Felicula. And all of a sudden my eyes welled with tears. I said, "You know, Felicula, I haven't heard her name in decades." And suddenly I was back again in that sunflower field, remembering the day that Felicula was murdered in a hit-and-run accident, really the status quo and standing for women's rights. That was the time I understood the high stakes of change. I said, "Who are you again?" And she said, "My name is Monique. I'm the Deputy General of the Central Bank." And if you had asked me in 1986, or any of my co-founders, when women had just gotten the right to open a bank account without their husband's signature, if you had said to us that in 30 years, we wouldn't just be improving women's economic condition, which was our mission, but that a young woman in the next generation would be running the financial system, and that Rwanda would have more women parliamentarians than any country on the planet, I'm not sure we would have believed you. Maybe our dreams were too small. And I understood in that moment that I was there back in that same place to be reminded that I, like all of you, stand on the shoulders of greats who came before, and that I was there simply to complete work that Felicula and women like her had started but could not complete in their lifetime. And that in this moment in history, it is to each of us to take on dreams that are so big, we can't complete them in our lifetime.
All right. I hope you could hear it. I couldn't hear it well here on the laptop. Very odd. Something is really wrong with my videos thing today, which I need to fix. I hope you find it inspiring. You see entrepreneurs from many different places and many different things, many different kinds of domains, and they're all learning the same lesson about the world. And in a lot of our entrepreneurship education, they get just focused on this idea phase and then getting the pitching and the money. And that is such a thin and relatively unimportant, in fact, it's mostly unimportant part of building ventures. The real work is in the kinds of things that these entrepreneurs are talking about, and all the principles. But we also, as I said, we have 200 case studies on applications of these principles over and over again through the history of companies, but also the careers of entrepreneurs. And so I urge you to take some of this more seriously so we can get away from the random news stories and Silicon Valley hype. Most great companies, the Tatas and Kirloskars, were not built that way. So I feel very, very strongly about this, and we can talk some more about that. But in the meanwhile, I would like to thank all the young people who are here listening and interested practically to become entrepreneurs. Hopefully, you will all stay in my life in one way or the other as you learn and ask questions and become part of the community. And now I think I am happy to go much deeper into research issues. I also have plenty of time if people want to hang out and talk. So just let me know. I'm just going to hand it back to Professor Tillai and to Arushi to take me wherever you guys want to go next.
Thank you, Professor Saras. So let me just ask the participants if anybody would like to have a question or two. We just probably have a couple of minutes before we turn to the research part. Anybody would like to raise hands? In the meanwhile, let me just have a question from my side. So does this principle, how relevant are these principles across different types of, for example, there is social, then there's high technology, then there is consumer-oriented businesses. There are different types of ventures. So do these effectual principles, how does it hold across different types of entrepreneurial ventures?
That's exactly why I tried to bring you examples from a real variety, right? Think about Husk Power, for-profit company solving a big problem, Biocon, pharmaceutical, Upeka, SaaS Ventures, Netflix, Apple, but I also have Jackie Novogratz. I can also go into a whole series of people who have built like manufacturing companies. Richard, I have another video I have is of Richard Branson, basically ask Boeing to just give him some planes so he can try out an airplane company. So I have that video as well. So you name the kind of company and the kind of venture, and I will give you a story that shows effectuation principles. So not only that, we've also looked, we went all the way back to like 18th century. We also looked at the Josiah Wedgwood in England, right? So this is, the idea here is really to go for the most general principles and logic. Then you think about how do I apply it here? How do I apply it there? How do I do it in Rwanda? How do I do it in Japan? And that's why we have those 200 cases across multiple industries, multiple countries, cultures, but also history. So that one, I think we have pretty much nailed. So you give me an example of a kind of venture and let me tell you a story. No problem.
Great. So any questions? I don't see any hands going up. So there's a question from, there's one question.
Yeah, I thought there may be questions in chat that you might want to bring to the, somebody take a look at chat and come and please, maybe Arushi, you can do that. Oh, Dilip Kumar. Dilip?
Yeah.
Hello, Saras. How are you?
Very good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm running two companies. Both are my entrepreneurial ventures to say. But the biggest challenge for me and the co-founders have been to be out of this rat race of raising funds and continuing to effectuate, ask people. But it's getting very difficult to ask these days also. Is that true, or we are losing our skin, or we are losing to the pressure of raising funds? What is your thought on that?
So I also wrote, I did an interview with Tech in Asia, which I think got quite a bit of notice when I talked about how this whole Silicon Valley culture is kind of killing entrepreneurship in India. Maybe there's an exaggeration, but what I want to say is this idea that I'm going to chase money and then get effectual, it's by definition, it doesn't work, right? The whole idea is you got to get people to put skin in the game when you don't have anything and you don't promise them any upside and you're not signing any random term sheets, right? So what happens with investors is you get them on board by promising them something in an unpredictable future. And of course, the future kicks your butt. And so they don't want to fund anymore. I don't understand why they believe in prediction. One of the reasons they believe in prediction with a lot of, at least formal investors, is that if 1 out of 10 makes it, they are happy. Right? That is their bar. I mean, the average, if you look at all the companies in any economy, about half of them will succeed. But only 1 out of 10 VC-backed companies succeed. And I'm like, what is wrong here? And yet we pay so much money. It's just that those successes are very big, right? So that's what they are after. So taking money upfront is a problem. It actually kills your ability to effectuate in some ways because you're already signed on to certain milestones, which ain't happening because the future is fundamentally unpredictable. So the way I would think about it is, and the UPECA model is to say, you're not going to take any money unless the money comes knocking on your door, right? So you never go and pitch people. If they come to you and say, hey, we heard you're doing this amazing things, you have these customers, and now I can help you scale. That's a great moment in time to take money, right? Or you take money without too many terms attached. Then you can change, you can do all kinds of different things because you don't have to deal with investors all the time. So in general, the idea of effectuation is to build for affordable loss, and investors are just one kind of stakeholder. Just like you have customers, you have an amazing CTO or a technical team, they are all equal as far as you are concerned, right? Investors do not get to call the shot in any day. Those are the terms you want to be able to negotiate with them. And in case you think that, how can that ever happen? It happens a lot. So we need to tell more of those stories and learn more of those things. So now, Dilip, let me ask you a different question. Are you actually part of like a term sheet with milestones, that kind of investor deal? Or are you just working with angel investors who work with you like they are your co-founders? What situation are you in?
I'm not raising fund. I have people coming to me asking me whether I need money, whether you want to grow to the next stage. And I say to them that I don't need your $1 million or $1 billion because I don't know where to deploy.
Yeah.
But the growth story is I have a good bottom line, but not a great top line. And I am being peer pressured to look at other competitors who have negative bottom line and a great top line and saying that, look, one day they will swallow you and you may not exist. It is the time you have to burn cash and had more top line. That is what they are saying me. And most of them are saying, hey, today you are at 10 crore and you are making 15% margin. Imagine that if you can drop your margin to 5-6% and achieve 60 crore, you are still making a lot of money. That is what they are trying to put pressure on, and trying to go to look at the top line. But I don't want to get into top line business at all, because I want to be a differentiator. I want to give the industry, the stakeholders, a different game for what they are coming to me. I don't want to be one among the 100. I want to be one out of the 100. So it is really challenging given the COVID condition to stay put in that pace.
Okay. So this is awesome. This is an awesome situation to be in. This is the moment you can be effectual, right? So now you want to go back and ask them, first of all, the issue of what is their skin in the game, right? Okay. So if they're willing to invest with you to build and scale your company the way you want to scale, if you think I am good enough, you want to invest your money, but I run my company. You don't get to say I have to drop the profit margin or increase the top. You don't get to say any of that. So I would say if you can set your terms, take the money, think carefully. If you had the money, what could you do that you couldn't do without it? Right? So they could be correct, like the future is unpredictable. Nobody knows. They could be correct that some person comes along and they just take crores and crores of money from somebody, and then they reduce the profit margin to 1/10 of what you have. And sure, you will get eaten, but you've been making money. What do you care? You made some money. You will have 1,000 other good ideas. You can continue with that. So maybe you will go, your industry will change. It'll go. But let me tell you, those people are not going to make money either. That's the interesting part. They do all these numbers, but you have to ask them, what if it doesn't work that way? So why not stay with somebody who has a higher margin, and then we push it in multiple directions, so that people know that if somebody comes and tries to undercut your pricing, you can compete. So take the money on as an option, right? So don't take all the money and do what they want. The moment you are the one who came up with the idea and executed, and you're showing you can actually make money at this, right? If investors could run companies, if they could build unicorns, why are they investors losing on 9? And why aren't they actually building? Why aren't they Steve Jobs? It makes no sense, right? They are not Steve Jobs precisely that because they can't do it and they don't want to do it. There is more good money kind of chasing bad ideas in some ways, and you don't want that. So if you can set the terms, if you can sit down and think carefully, if you had that money, what would you do? What would you, Dilip Kumar, do with that money? And if you think you can come up with something that is worth doing, then you take the money, but you take it on your terms. And the flip side of it is, every single day I am actually making a profit and I'm doing something that I enjoy. I'm doing the kinds of things that I want to do that matter to me. So what if 2 years from now some daddy big bucks comes and squashes the industry? So what? You have nothing to lose. You will have 7 other ideas. You will have people who want to work with you. So many of these very, very extraordinary entrepreneurs. Look at Steve Jobs himself again. They threw him out. They thought he couldn't run Apple, right? What happened? The board threw him out, and then they had to go for several years, and then they had to go get him back again. So long as you are doing it on your terms, money can also be a good thing. In fact, I tell people, raise money when you don't need it on your terms, and then act as if you don't have it. And that's how you come to amazing ideas. And then when you have the moment of scaling, you can scale very quickly. Or if a bad actor comes and tries to kind of pollute the industry, reduce the margins, you can fight back, because you can take because you've been making money every day, you can take 2 years and just give the bloody product free until that person goes away, right? You can do that, but do it your way, Dilip, because you are the entrepreneur. You know what you're doing. Listen to people's advice. They also have expertise. They probably have contacts. They probably know other experienced entrepreneurs. But at all times, that is really, do you want to be an entrepreneur or do you want to make money? Right? Money should be a side effect. Imagine you're Michael Jordan playing basketball and all you care about is the next basket. You'll never win any games. The idea is, if you're always thinking about the scoreboard, you can't. You have to play the game. And entrepreneurs know how to play the game. They enjoy playing the game, and they don't mind getting bloody in the process. They will do it. And then investors and everybody else, employees, all of us sort of live off of entrepreneurs who do that, right? And, thank goodness for that. So you are in a wonderful position, Dilip. Definitely keep talking to the investors, bring them on board, but on your own terms and not having to do everything. And money can help scale a company, but more often than not, money can also kill a growing company.
Thank you, Saras. You have
wonderful. I'm so excited. It's rare to have that question come up. I always get questions about people. How can I get somebody to give me $2 million? And so I'm very glad that you have what I call a champagne problem.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks a lot.